Imagine you only had 3 weeks left to strip away the dangerous fat wrapped around your organs, the kind you can't see, but the kind that quietly damages your heart, your liver, and your metabolism. What would you actually do? I've walked 5 different people through exactly this process, and today I'm handing you the same step-by-step plan. And here's the bonus. While we're targeting that hidden visceral fat, we're also going to melt away the fat you can pinch under your skin. So you're solving 2 problems with 1 method. Let me be upfront with you, though this plan is simple to understand, but it takes real discipline to follow. Think of it as your emergency brake, the glass protocol for when you need results fast. But underneath every part of this plan is one single mechanism, one switch inside your body that decides whether you store fat around your organs or burn it off. I call it the visceral fat switch. By the time this video ends, you'll know exactly what flips that switch the wrong way, what flips it back off, and how to keep it off for a full 3 weeks straight. And once you understand this, you won't be able to look at food the same way again. I'm Dr. Michael Diamonds, a medical doctor, a scientist, and a natural bodybuilder. Throughout 2025 and into 2026, my team and I studied our clients closely using real blood work, DEXA body scans, and MRIs, and this exact strategy delivered results every single time we applied it. Follow it properly, and you might even uncover your abs by the end. Let me show you what this switch really looks like, because honestly, it's far easier to demonstrate than to explain in words. I've got a regular can of Coke here, about 9 teaspoons of sugar packed into that one can. Now picture 2 funnels representing 2 different versions of you. One version stores visceral fat, the other doesn't. Here's version 1. You drink the Coke and there's nothing slowing it down. It rushes straight into your bloodstream all at once, like a flash flood. That sudden flood is essentially what flips your body into fat storage mode. Your pancreas responds by releasing a wave of insulin, and insulin's job is to grab that sugar and pack it away. A large portion of it ends up stored as fat directly around your internal organs. Now here's version 2. This time we add psyllium gel, basically fiber, into the funnel before the Coke goes in. Watch what happens when fiber gets there first. The Coke still goes through, but much more slowly. There's no flood this time. Without that flood, there's no massive insulin spike, and the switch stays off. Same exact drink, same sugar, same calories, but 2 completely different outcomes inside your body. That's the entire game we're playing here. Insulin is the switch itself. When insulin runs high, your body stores fat. When insulin stays low, your body burns it instead. And everything you'll do over the next 3 weeks comes down to 2 things happening simultaneously. You need to stop feeding the fat, and you need to consistently attack it. Skip either one of these, and you'll stay stuck exactly where you are right now. That's the trap most people fall into. They focus on just one half of the equation, and then wonder why nothing's changing on the scale or in the mirror. So let's start with the half most people don't want to hear about, what's actually feeding that fat in the first place, and why cutting it out matters more than almost anything else you'll do this month. The first culprit on this list is alcohol, and I know the moment I say that word, some of you tense up. But here's the reality. Alcohol acts as a metabolic roadblock. The moment it enters your system, your liver drops everything else it's doing to process it first. And while your liver is busy dealing with that drink, fat burning essentially grinds to a halt. Worse still, visceral fat tends to build up around that very same liver, making the problem compound on itself. So for these 3 weeks, and remember, we only have 3 weeks, alcohol is completely off the table. No exceptions. The second issue is ultra-processed food, and I want to show you exactly why it behaves so differently from whole food, especially when it comes to visceral fat, even when the calories look identical on paper. Picture two snacks side by side, a handful of Haribo gummies in one hand and a cup of blueberries in the other. Same calories, same amount of sugar, but your gut treats these two substances in completely different ways. With blueberries, you have to chew them, and they come packed with fiber, nutrients, and vitamins. That fiber slows down how quickly sugar enters your bloodstream. It also feeds the good bacteria living in your gut, and it keeps you feeling full for longer. Just look at the sheer volume difference between the two. That's the switch that keeps insulin low and your body in burning mode. Now compare that to the gummies, which disappear in 2 bites. Ultra-processed simply means all the work your body normally does has already been done for you in a factory. There's no fiber left, no nutrients, nothing left to break down. The sugar floods straight into your bloodstream, triggers a sharp insulin spike, flips that visceral fat switch on, and a few hours later you're left with an energy crash followed by intense cravings. That cycle keeps slamming the switch shut over and over again. So for the next 3 weeks, cut out ultra-processed foods entirely. Replace them with whole foods that give you the same satisfaction, often even more of it, in far greater quantity. That's half of this battle handled. Now it's time to tackle the other half, actively killing the fat that's already there. I call this next part the gut fire protocol because it does 2 things at once to put your gut to work burning visceral fat. The first pillar is high protein, and here's why it matters so much. Digesting protein burns more calories than digesting any other type of food, a phenomenon scientists call the thermic effect of food. Protein burns roughly 2 to 3 times more calories during digestion than carbohydrates, and almost 6 times more than fat. That means you're literally burning energy just by eating it. On top of that, these same protein-rich foods often feed your good gut bacteria, and that connection matters more than most people realize because there's a direct link between the health of your gut and how much visceral fat your body holds onto. Fix your gut, and that fat has nowhere left to hide. So here's a list worth screenshotting right now. Plain Greek yogurt and kefir give you protein along with beneficial probiotics. Fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi build strong, healthy gut bacteria and strengthen your gut lining. Berries bring high fiber along with polyphenols and antioxidants. Chia seeds and spinach supply probiotic fiber. Salmon delivers omega-3 fats that reduce inflammation and improve how sensitive your body is to insulin. Almonds and avocados help keep your blood sugar steady throughout the day. And for lean protein, lean chicken, whole eggs, and egg whites round things out as nutrient-dense options you can carry with you almost anywhere. Next, I'll walk you through exactly what a full day of eating looks like using these foods. Let's turn this list into an actual day of eating, not just a bunch of ingredients you have to figure out on your own. Meal 1 is what I call the Greek yogurt power bowl. Start with plain, unsweetened Greek yogurt and check the label to make sure it lists live cultures. Add a scoop of protein powder. Mix in a full cup of blackberries, blueberries, strawberries, or raspberries, and stir in some chia seeds. That single bowl alone gives you 50 grams of protein before you've even reached your second meal of the day. Meal 2 is salmon paired with a baked potato. Potatoes actually have one of the highest satiety scores of any carbohydrate, meaning they keep you feeling fuller for longer than almost any other carb-based option out there. Add a side of kimchi or sauerkraut to round out Meal 3 keeps things simple with scrambled eggs. Use whole eggs, and if you can manage it, include 2 egg yolks for the fat-soluble vitamins they provide. The egg whites bring the protein, and the yolks also supply choline, a nutrient your body genuinely needs. I've put together a completely free guide with the exact portions and amounts for this entire plan, and I'll show you exactly where to grab it a little later. All I ask in return is a quick thumbs up on this video, and if you know someone who needs to hear this, send it their way on WhatsApp. It takes 10 seconds, and it might genuinely help them. Now, before you even eat your first meal of the day, we want to keep that switch turned off so your body stays in fat-burning mode from the moment you wake up. Start your morning with a glass of water. Then, 10 to 15 minutes before eating, have what I call a spike flattener. One option is a psyllium drink. Mix 1 teaspoon of psyllium into a glass of water, and make sure you follow it with plenty of additional water afterward. If you skip the extra water, it can sit heavy in your stomach and feel uncomfortable, so don't skip that step. What happens next is the same gel effect I showed you earlier. It forms in your stomach ahead of your meal and slows down how quickly food enters your system, exactly like that funnel demonstration. Alternatively, if psyllium isn't for you, try 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar diluted in a full glass of water right before your meal. I want to be completely honest with you here, because I'd rather earn your trust than just your approval. Psyllium can interfere with how your body absorbs certain medications, so if you're taking anything related to blood sugar management, talk to your doctor before adding psyllium to your routine. I'm a doctor, but I'm not your doctor, so that conversation matters. As for the apple cider vinegar, always dilute it heavily in water, never drink it straight, and skip it entirely if you have a history of acid reflux or ulcers. If that blueberries versus gum is comparison made the switch click for you earlier, that's exactly the kind of understanding I want more people to have, because science explained simply tends to stick. Now, I can already hear some of you thinking, Dr. Mike, this all sounds great, but what happens when I'm out the door by 5 in the morning and running on empty by lunchtime? I hear that concern, and I want you to know it's not a willpower issue, it's a systems issue, and systems can be built and fixed. If you'd rather have me and my team build that entire system around your specific life, there's a QR code you can scan that leads to an application to work directly with us. We keep our capacity intentionally limited, and we're selective about who we take on, because this is a premium hands-on service. But if you're a busy person who's a good fit, we can help you skip years of trial and error. Now let's get into the foods and habits that keep that switch off, so you can start actively torching the fat wrapped around your organs. Let's talk about when you eat, because timing turns out to matter just as much as what's on your plate. Fasting is a tool, not a lifestyle religion, and more fasting isn't automatically better fasting. For 6 days out of the week, I want you eating within an 8-hour window, followed by 16 hours of fasting. Practically, that means eating from midday until 8 in the evening, then stopping completely. 8 of those 16 fasting hours you'll simply be asleep, so it's far more manageable than it sounds on paper. This isn't just theory. A randomized controlled trial from 2022 examined time, restricted eating, and a separate MRI study looked at intermittent fasting in pre-diabetic patients. Both studies found meaningful reductions in visceral fat and overall body fat, even with fasting windows as short as 16 hours. Keep in mind that the real, measurable visceral fat loss tends to show up around the 8 to 12 week mark, so think of these first 3 weeks as building the habit and laying the groundwork, rather than expecting dramatic overnight change. Once a week, just one day, I want you to stretch that 16-hour fast further, out to a full 24 hours. Here's how that works in practice. Your last meal is Sunday at 8 in the evening. You sleep through part of that fast, then skip breakfast and lunch entirely on Monday, and break your fast again at 8 that evening with dinner. Roughly a third of that fasting window is simply covered by sleep, which makes it far more doable than it sounds. I genuinely love this practice because it accomplishes so much more than just skipping a couple of meals. It drops your insulin levels dramatically, which is the deepest possible push toward burning mode, and it makes your body more sensitive to insulin going forward. It also triggers a process called autophagy, where your body clears out and recycles damaged cells, one of the most powerful anti-aging processes we currently understand. It boosts growth hormone, which protects your muscle mass while simultaneously driving fat loss. It reduces inflammation throughout your body, supports healthier blood pressure and cholesterol levels, and even raises something called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is linked to sharper mental clarity. That's exactly why people who fast regularly often describe feeling mentally clearer and more focused. And when it comes specifically to visceral fat, this extended fast gives your gut a full day to rest, rebalance, and repair itself. Now, I want to be realistic with you. A single 24-hour fast doesn't magically translate into a pound of fat lost that day. That math is far too simple and doesn't reflect how bodies actually work. What it does give you is the strongest possible deficit and the strongest possible metabolic reset on day one, which helps drive fat loss forward from there. And if you have any kidney or liver conditions or you're not currently in good health, please talk to your doctor before attempting this. I'd genuinely love to know your experience with fasting. Have you ever tried a full 24-hour fast? If you're on medication, was it difficult to manage? Did your cravings eventually fade, the way mine did once I pushed through that adjustment period? Drop your story in the comments, because I read every single one, and your experience might be exactly what inspires or honestly informs someone else deciding whether to try this themselves. Now let's move to something people consistently underestimate: movement, and you don't need a gym membership to make this work. Walking is the exercise nobody gives enough credit to, yet it quietly does more damage to visceral fat than most people realize. Aim for somewhere between 10,000 and 15,000 steps a day, and you don't need to knock it all out in one session. Spread it throughout your day however it fits your schedule. One investment worth making is a walking pad you can keep under your desk. I use one myself, and honestly, it's one of the smartest purchases you can make for this process, second only to working directly with a team that builds the whole system around you. On top of your daily steps, add in a small dose of higher intensity work 2 to 3 times a week. Spend 25 minutes on it. Warm up for 5 minutes, then cycle through 4 rounds of walking fast for 90 seconds, followed by walking slow for 90 seconds. Then finish with a cool down. I'll include a full breakdown of this exact protocol in the guide as well. Don't skip resistance training either, because muscle is genuinely central to how this entire switch operates. Think of your muscle like a sponge. The bigger that sponge is, the more carbohydrates it can soak up and store as glycogen, a stable, usable form of energy, instead of letting sugar flood your bloodstream and eventually get stored as fat. So the more muscle you carry, the more your body can absorb, the more insulin insensitive you become, and the less fat you end up storing. Muscle also raises your metabolism around the clock, even while you're resting, and there's a well-documented link between how much muscle mass someone carries and how long they tend to live. I'm not suggesting you need to become a competitive bodybuilder. I'm simply saying train at least 3 times a week, and within 3 weeks, you'll likely surprise yourself with how much has changed. That full training breakdown will be in the guide too. Now here's the part I want you to pay closer attention to than almost anything else in this entire video, because it's the switch nobody talks about, and it's exactly why some people do everything right and still stay stuck. You can eliminate everything that feeds the fat. You can eat perfectly. You can fast consistently, walk every day, lift weights religiously, and yet somehow that visceral fat refuses to budge. It just sits there in the background, stubbornly holding on. Why does that happen? The answer is cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. Here's the actual mechanism behind it, and it's the real explanation for why your body sometimes won't let go no matter what you do. Your body stores visceral fat as a survival mechanism. When cortisol stays chronically elevated, meaning you're under constant, ongoing stress, your body genuinely believes it's in danger around the clock. And a body that believes it's under threat will not release emergency fuel reserves. Instead, it hoards that fat, particularly around your vital organs, because on a primal level, it's trying to protect your survival. That means you can be in a perfect calorie deficit, doing everything technically correct, and your body will still hit the brakes on fat loss, because deep down it believes releasing that fat could threaten your survival. I like to think of cortisol as the opposite of testosterone. Testosterone builds muscle, burns fat, and gives you energy. Cortisol does the reverse. It stores fat, breaks down muscle for fuel, and leaves you drained. And here's what most people never realize. Cortisol doesn't just come from work stress or family pressure. It also comes from undereating, overtraining, poor sleep, and scrolling your phone the second you wake up. You could be doing everything else perfectly and still be keeping that switch flipped on the entire time without knowing it. So how do you actually bring cortisol down? It doesn't require anything fancy or expensive. Start by simply focusing on your breathing for 15 minutes a day. Lie down on the floor, place your hand on your chest, and just focus on that breath moving in and out. That's really all meditation is at its core, focusing your attention on one single thing. You can also go for a walk without listening to anything at all, just letting your mind settle, and that alone will bring cortisol down. Journaling helps too. Writing down a few things you're genuinely grateful for can actually trigger the release of oxytocin, which works against stress hormones. I also want to show you a quick technique called a physiological sigh, and it's worth trying right now. It involves 2 inhales through your nose, 1 long inhale, followed immediately by a short second inhale to top off your lungs, and then 1 long, slow exhale through your mouth. Try it a couple of times and notice how much calmer you feel almost immediately. I'll admit I'm dealing with a bit of a cold from traveling, but even so, doing this brings a noticeable sense of calm. The next piece is sleep, and specifically your relationship with screens before bed. Think of this as a wind-down protocol rather than just a wake-up alarm. Cut caffeine at least 10 hours before bedtime. So if you're aiming to sleep by 10 at night, your last coffee should be no later than midday. And put your phone down completely during the final hour before sleep. Get these 2 things right, and that switch will finally stay off exactly where you want it, which is what makes every other piece of this plan actually work the way it's supposed to. So here's your complete visceral fat switch, laid out from start to finish. Stop feeding it. No alcohol, no ultra-processed food, for 3 full weeks, no exceptions, because without this piece, nothing else works properly. Stay consistently in fat, burning mode with the gut fire foods we covered. Follow the fasting structure, 16 hours of fasting within an 8-hour eating window 6 days a week, plus 1 24-hour fast. Hit 10 to 15,000 steps daily. Remember, 15,000 steps burns around 500 calories, and sustained over a full week, that alone adds up to roughly a pound of fat burned purely from walking. Keep lifting weights to protect and build muscle. And finally, unlock everything else by bringing cortisol down through the physiological sigh, and 10 minutes of quiet meditation each day. 3 weeks, that's genuinely all it takes to get this process moving. And you might just start noticing your abs beginning to show as you go. And as promised, here's your reward for sticking with this all the way through. I've put together a completely free guide covering the drink recipes, the full walking protocol, and the training split, no cost at all. You'll find it at the very bottom of the description, and it'll be sent straight to your email. If you want the exact meal plan built specifically around your calorie needs, along with a doctor personally reviewing your health data and working alongside you and my team, that link is the first one in the description. It's pinned in the comments, or you can simply scan the QR code on screen. You now have the complete 3-week plan to tackle visceral fathead on. The ball is in your court now. Go put in the work. And like I tell every one of my clients, keep putting one foot in front of the other, especially on the days you don't feel like it. If this video helped you understand your body a little better, hit that thumbs up, subscribe for more videos like this, and share it with someone who needs to see it today. I'll see you in the next one.